welcome to another episode of the It's Just a Hill Cycling Podcast. I am John Stenning, and in just a bit, I will be joined by my fellow founding IJAH members and past guests of this very podcast, Brian Cauti and Jeremy Newman, to talk about their recent participation in this year's New York Marathon, which happened just this past weekend. They both crushed it. Me and the fellow IJAH members are all super proud of them and their accomplishments, and although I will say myself, I do miss seeing them on their bikes. Events coming up, we have Cranksgiving this weekend, Sunday, November 12th. The info is on our Strava page. We've got, it's a food drive. And so when you bring some canned goods, non-perishable food items, you get a raffle ticket. And then after the ride, we're going to have a raffle and raffle off some prizes including a Laser Vento helmet, new Vittoria tires, also win some gear from our Powers Combined groups, Coffee Yes Cycling Maybe, Tri-State Cycling Club, and yours truly, It's Just a Hill. We'll have some swag for raffle prizes. Also, an FMS movement analysis plus a 1-hour training analysis session at Momentum Fitness in Providence. Some goodies from our gracious Cranksgiving hosts, We Roast Coffee, and possibly more. So please come on out to Cranksgiving. Bring some canned goods, some non-perishable food items to be donated to the Rhode Island Food Bank. And hopefully you can win some prizes afterwards. I'll have stickers for people that show up no matter what. So hopefully you're enjoying the ride, drinking a lot of coffee, eating some snacks, and hanging out with us before and after and during, I guess, because part of the ride is hanging out. Also, we have a toy drive ride going on with the Tri-State Cycling Club. They're really helping sort of man this and put it together. That's going to be on December 3rd from India Point Park. Keep an ear and eye out for more details. Okay, now to my chat with Brian and Jeremy. Hello, Jeremy and Brian, and thank you both for coming to the podcast. Welcome back.
Hi, John.
Thanks, John. What's going on?
Oh, wow. Not much. Thank you both for being here. I just went over in the intro of the podcast that you both just ran the New York Marathon. Good job, guys. Good job.
Thanks, John.
Thanks. Good job, Jeremy. Good job.
Yeah.
Round of applause.
So the New York Marathon, yes, this is still a cycling podcast. So let's talk about just the basics really quick. Jeremy, how far is a marathon? That's like a foot race, right? You ran this. This is something that you run without a bike. Yeah, there's no bikes involved. And how far is it?
It is 26.2 miles. 40 kilometers? For the
40
kilometer
kilometers.
Boys.
Yeah.
What's that? 41? I don't know.
42.
42.
Do they give you one of those stickers when you finish? The 26.2 stickers. Did they give you one? What?
No. I can't stick it on the back of my car. Can you believe that?
Yeah, that's the hilarious thing about those stickers is you have to buy those.
That's wild. Yeah, they should give you that. Like when you get to the top of Mount Washington, they give you one of those stickers too, right? It's just one of the stickers that you get. Yeah, that's all. Yeah, stickers should be free. I think all stickers should be free.
Hashtag normalize free stickers.
Yeah. Both of your first marathons, is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. Yeah.
Nice. And I would like to talk about like the sort of the sign up process. I know that you both did it through a charity. Is that right? What charity was that?
Team for Kids. It's one of the New York Roadrun. Yeah, it's one of the New York Roadrunners organizations. It gives to like underprivileged kids that can't afford different different things. So
just things, or like is it like athletic or?
Athletic stuff for I don't know if they
fund like physical education programming in inner city schools.
And how did you find that way? Like, how did that become your avenue for registering? Was one of you sort of the leader here? Did one of you like convince the other one to do it? How did that all work out?
Yeah, Brian was the leader of this whole thing.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I don't know where the idea came from. All I know is I found myself on the website and on the New York Roadrunner website. And there's like a list of charities. And I picked that one because it seemed like a cool cause. And it was also like, they're like very well known. And it wasn't a crazy amount of money to fundraise. Like it was, their fundraising is very, it's very witty. It's like 26.2 is the distance, and you have to raise 2,620. So it's like 26.2. Oh, okay. They do the same thing with like half marathons. You have to raise like 1,310.
Gotcha. Yeah.
I did hear somebody in the line while we were waiting to get through the corrals and everything. They said that the price is going up to 3,000 next year. The fundraising amount's going up to 3,000. So can't be witty next year, I guess.
You gotta. Yeah, no more like fun little multiples. $3,000. It's easier to remember, and it's not that much more money, especially if it's like for a good cause.
Right.
So, like, you both, we ride bikes together a lot. How long have you both been sort of running for? Like, how long has running been an interest? Because to me, a marathon is a pretty big endeavor, right? And you obviously didn't just go from nothing to that. So like, Brian, if you were sort of like the leader, when did sort of running become a part of, something that you wanted to do, training wise or fitness wise or whatever, like how and why, I guess?
I don't really know. I don't know how. I mean, I always did like random little races here and there. It started with like, well, when was that 5K that I did with you, Jeremy? The finish for Guinness. So was that 2 years ago?
Yeah, that was was that 2020?
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. So 2021 was my first road race. And I don't know, I just thought it was really cool. It was like a different vibe. And then like from there on, I just did random ones here and there. And then, Jeremy and I did a half marathon in Bristol. That was last year, and then this year we did the Providence half. So random little races sprinkled in here and there, and then that just kind of snowballed into, I wonder if I can do a marathon.
And so, Jeremy, does your sort of like running history go back further than 2 years? Am I correct to assume that? You have all these medals hanging up behind you. I think most of them are for running events. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think only 4 or 5 of them
are bike stuff.
Medal flex.
Yeah, I'd say like 4 or 5 of them are for cycling. Because you always get a finisher medal at the end of a cycling event, but you can run a 5K and they'll hand you a medal. And that's how I kind of got into doing the events, because I was just like, I wanted to just like accumulate medals and just hang them up on my wall, and you could get them so easily. And I've been running for a long time. I started running, that was like 2011, just like casually, half mile at a time, before even, watches. I wasn't even wearing a watch. I was just going out front door of my dad's house and running to the end of my road and back. And at that point,
running before watches.
Yeah. It's before Strava. I've always enjoyed running, more for like a fitness thing. But once I started doing events, it really got into the not really competitive side, but I got more frustrated with myself getting, I would get fast and then I hurt myself, slow down. I think we've talked about it before, but just injury in running happens so easily and often. But being more conscious about that, I feel like I'm able to run more consistently with the right training in the right form. I recently found out that I've been running with like the wrong size shoes, so that's been like a big difference. But yeah, I think I've done 18 half marathons and never did a full marathon before, and it's always been on my bucket list. And I've never had somebody willing enough to run something like that with me. And then Brian proposed the idea. That was around like Thanksgiving last year, right?
Yeah, almost this time last year. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Right. He was like, "What if we run the New York City Marathon?" Because we're debating doing Boston, and it's just like so much that goes into it. But we probably won't qualify for Boston for a while if we even do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, Brian proposed the idea of New York, and I was like, yeah, let's do it. Why not? We got a whole year to raise this money, and
Yeah, so like why New York, I guess, right? The Boston Marathon is obviously very big around here. You talk about not being able to qualify for it. Was it just the right place at the right time? You know, being on this website, finding like, you know, New York is relatively close to us. It's within a few hours. It's a lot different than like, you know, going, you know, somewhere elsewhere, essentially. So like, yeah, why the New York Marathon? Can you do the same thing with the Boston Marathon and get in with a charity? Like, can you do that?
So yeah, you can. Boston is like 10 grand. So Boston is very elitist in a sense, to where like I think the cutoff is like 5 hours, whereas New York is like 9. You know, you have to either qualify, which is a sub 3. I think now it's like 250s or something like that. And then even if you do qualify, you still have to fall into a lottery to get picked. So there's like a whole thing around that. And
so you have to run it in less than 3 hours, but the time limit is 5 hours. How does that make any sense?
So like charity runners, for example, they're not qualifying. So like, there was like this whole thing where it's like Boston is not a jogging race. So it's like, you know, it's very, but you know, it's like Boston is like the coveted thing. It's like the coolest marathon in the world.
Someone bombed it famously.
You know, that's fucking like crazy. So like, the elite field in Boston is like a huge deal. Whereas like New York City is more about like the community. The elite field isn't as stacked, although the female winner of Boston did win this year.
Cool.
But I think the coolest thing about it is like, it's New York City, and like, it's a city that doesn't stop for anything. And like in this one day, they shut down the whole city for this. And it's like, I just thought it was cooler. The Boston route is cool, but like the beginning of New York City, you're running over the fucking Verrazano Bridge, which is like a huge bridge that only cars can drive over. And yeah, I don't know, the allure of like all of that was just like so cool to me. And it is the largest marathon in the world as far as attendance.
Crowds and
runners.
I guess was there was timing involved? You know, if you're thinking about it in November, these two races are very different times a year, right? April is when the Boston Marathon is, and New York City Marathon is it always in early November?
Yeah, it's always the first Sunday in November.
Yeah, right. So that's interesting. Do you like, it's interesting that it's so, there are more people that run it too, or just bigger crowds in New York than Boston? More people are actually able to do it.
Yeah. There's 52,000 runners this year.
It's been upwards of like 90,000 before. I think 2019 was the largest at like 90 that signed up. I don't know how many actually attended it. Numbers are probably online, but yeah, it's think about like 50,000 is obviously a lot of people, and it felt like a lot of people being there. And me and Brian were in the first wave, and that kind of is less congested. But I was seeing photos of people on the bridge in maybe like the third or second wave from like just aerial view, and it is like packed with runners.
Well, there's 5 waves, and each wave roughly had 10,000. And it says, I'm looking at the thing right here, it says 51,316 people finished. So that's a pretty good percentage that's like maybe 700 people did not.
Yeah.
And so like let's sort of jump ahead in my notes, but let's talk about like, what is that like? Like, I know you sort of like, what's that morning of, like, you wake up on the day of the marathon, and like, how do you where are you staying? How do you get there? Didn't you guys got on a ferry or something? You had to bring extra clothes and all that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's the perk of actually having the charity. So like, if you're a quote unquote normal runner, if you win the lottery or if you qualify, you have to kind of fend for yourself, or they put out like, you can either take a bus or you can take a ferry. But Team for Kids has a specific ferry just for the team. So like, we were on the 5:15 ferry, so we had to get up at 3:45 in the morning. Luckily, daylight saving time the night before, so we got an extra hour of sleep.
There you go.
which was great.
That's reason enough to do that one over Boston.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Fucking
It was
miserable
great.
April in Boston. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got up at 3:45, ate overnight oats. I was sitting on the floor in the hotel room, like with the closet door illuminating where I was because the girls were still sleeping.
Both your significant others went, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Sitting there eating oatmeal.
Yeah. Nice.
And then we already had like laid our clothes out the night before and like pinned our bibs and everything. And,
Right. Like good boys do. Yes. You lay out your clothes the night before.
Yeah.
Yes. Iron your singlets or whatever the fuck you call them. So you get up at, what'd you say, 3:45 you got up?
3:45, yeah. 3:45. So really like our brain clocks, it was 4:45.
Yep.
And then, we
two
we were
episodes in a row
mile-
of the podcast talking about fucking daylight savings time. We have to abolish it. It's too much. We talk about it too much. It sucks. Okay. Sorry. So
does.
what time are you out? Where are you staying? Like Midtown, or you're staying downtown or something?
We stayed Midtown. We were exactly a mile away from the ferry, so it was a nice little walk.
Cool. Yep.
Stretched the legs. We got to the ferry, and then you hop on that, and they're like, 5:15 it leaves on the dot, and it did. So we got on there, and then you coast through the Hudson to Staten Island, and then
say hi to Pete Davidson real quick, the king of Staten Island.
Say hi to Pete Davidson.
Yeah,
And
he's the
then
king.
we got
He's
on a bunch of school buses. We had a full police escort, which was sick.
That was probably what, a 30-minute bike or 30-minute bus ride that we took from the Staten Island ferry
after
port.
you got off the ferry. Yep.
Oh yeah, because even
So
though
there was,
the
like-
Right. The
Even though
streets
the
are
streets
closed,
were
but it's
clear.
still. Yeah.
Yeah, we had to do like this weird route up. Like you'd think that we could just go straight down because from the ferry port to there, it's just like a straight shot down the coast. But we had to go and loop up and around because it was like, there must have been like a convoy of 10 buses. And it's like so surreal looking at all these streets just empty. I mean, it's early in the morning, but there's trash trucks lining all of the cross streets. Because all the sanitation department just kind of like shuts down and just closes off all
Basically
the streets.
blocks things off. Yep.
Yeah.
And
the motorcycles following us that would like pull up and block intersections as we like blew through them. It was crazy. And then we met this dude from the Netherlands that was like so excited to get on the bus. He was like,
oh yeah.
you'll love this, John.
He like points at us and he's like, "Are these the buses?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "School bus?" I'm like, "Yeah, those are school buses." He's like, "Oh my God, I've always wanted to ride a school bus." And I'm like, Jeremy's like, "How do you get to school?" He's like, "We ride bikes." I'm like, "Oh my God,
perfect.
that's fucking awesome."
Love that.
He was like so stoked. I'm like, "Dude, these things suck."
Perspective is a motherfucker, right? Like it's
it
crazy.
really
This guy sees a yellow bus that we all just like hate. You hate to see them, you know?
Yeah.
I got stuck behind one on a bike today, and like I was pissed.
Yeah, and I'm sitting there, my fucking knees are shoved into the seat in front of me.
right.
Yeah, and then we finally get to the start village, and we like kind of all file in, and they had like full security, like an airport. You had to like they give you a little bag, so like whatever at the expo, they give you a little bag. Whatever you can fit in that bag can come with you. So like we wore like old sweatpants and sweatshirts because once you get on the start village, you're there for a little bit, so you don't just want to be wearing your race clothes. So
right.
Everything gets donated, which is really cool. So like everybody that was there that took off a layer of clothing, all that gets donated. So, and another cool thing about the charity is like we had a heated tent with like coffee and bagels.
How many people involved with this charity? Like how many runners?
I don't know how many are in the charity exactly, but there's definitely a lot. Like definitely like I would guess thousands. They've raised like a couple $1 million.
Oh wow!
But because they had it separated into so many different waves, we didn't all see each other at the same time. Because like our wave went off at 9:10 and wave 5 went off at 11:30. So like they're constantly cycling people through the island. And then Jeremy and I didn't realize like we had our own porta potties, which was awesome. And then when we were walking to the corrals, like there was literally people outside. They had hay just like on the grass, and people were just like laying in hay. I'm like, wow.
Like farm animals. It was great. It was crazy.
Yeah,
and we were in a heated tent. We were just like hanging out in a heated tent, drinking coffee that they had. Like everything was catered.
Like, everyone's stretching. We're all hanging out, talking, and we go outside, and there's fucking people laying in hay.
Wow.
So yeah, the charities
corrals, like literal farm.
Yeah, that's seriously, cool. The charity was well worth it.
Nice, that's cool. And so is it a literal gun that goes off when the race starts at 9:10?
Cannon.
Wow.
Yeah, big cannon.
Loud fucking cannon. They made like an announcement. They're like, a cannon is about to go off. Do not be alarmed. Because they did like the elites went first, or the hand cycles went first, and then the men's elite and women's elite. So like they did all that, and then the big fucking cannon goes off, and then they play Frank Sinatra, New York, New York.
Wow. Start spreading the news right away. Played. Yeah. It's just all New York theme song, like Rihanna comes on next. Is it just all New York theme songs the whole time? Jay-Z.
Literally.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And so like how long do you start next to each other? I'm assuming like we do, like when we ride bikes together. How long do you both stay together? Because I know your times ended up being a little bit different at the end, right? But how long were you together for?
I think 11 miles we were together for.
Yeah, roughly. I know we had a plan like, well, I had my Garmin makes a thing called Pace Pro where you can like upload the course and you can set like negative splits and stuff. But
cool.
I had known that it doesn't really work too well, like for major city marathons because of the GPS issues and stuff like that. My distance on my watch was like off by 0.2 miles. So like each time you hit a mile marker, you have to manually lap because then that's how you keep yourself on.
Gotcha.
So like I started the split, the Pace Pro thing, and like the second the race started, it was already off. And I'm like, all right, I looked at Jeremy. I'm like, all right, we're not using this anymore. So our plan was to go out slow and just kind of negative split, but
that's always the plan.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't even know what that means.
So like, all right, so you would say like if you want to do like my goal was 3:15, so that's a 7:25 pace.
7:27.
So like I would start at 8-minute mile, and then like the next one would be like 7:40, and then like 7:30. So you like gradually get slower. And then by the end, you're doing
but yeah, okay. So you keep going down. That's what a negative split means. Each mile is faster than the last. Is there a certain percentage that you're trying to hit?
I think there is. I don't really follow that. I always try to just hold pace for a while. I'm not like the most strategic runner. So I was just going to let Brian pace me for the majority of it. And then kind of when I felt like I couldn't hang on anymore, I was just going to drop back and then kind of negative split from there. Yep. But we hung on to the 3:15 pacer for a good amount of time until I dropped off, at least. There he is.
I don't know what just happened. My internet just freaked the fuck out.
Did you pay your bill?
Okay. He kept explaining negative splits and he was saying Jeremy was saying he's a little bit less structured. Maybe his structure wasn't necessarily like the same as you. What was the term that you used for yourself? Not as structured? Was that it?
Dude, I don't know. I could have said discipline because
but like it just like, okay, so
strategic,
less strategic. Sure. And so those first 11 miles, you are both pretty much like working the same rate. Like it's different than cycling. You're not like drafting. He's back.
I'm back. Sorry. Jesus.
It's okay. So like, how does that like, It depends on the day too, right? Like, how are you both feeling in those first couple of miles?
I felt great. Like, honestly, what I was trying to explain before I cut out was like, when I kind of aborted that plan, I don't remember. I mean, it was pretty quick in the race. They have pacers that run the race that will hold a sign that say like their finishing time. So like if you want to have pace. If you want to pace with somebody, you run with them. And like maybe mile 2, the 3:15 pacer group came by, and I was like, oh fuck, that's my time. And I was just like, all right, well, this is kind of now or never. I'm going to throw a rope on this dude. And I asked Jeremy, I was like, do you want to just hold on to this as long as we can? And he was down. And we ran with this group for the first 10 miles fucking melted by. I don't know. We were just like steady. Fucking like after you go over the Verrazano Bridge, you drop into Brooklyn, and it was just like an explosion of people. It was fucking insane because like
that's cool.
The first mile, it's quiet. You're going over this massive suspended bridge.
All I can hear is footsteps of everybody.
Yeah, just like people kind of chattering and like helicopters above you, and it's just like synchronized feet stomping, like fucking marching into like battle. It was like super eerie, but like kind of like the coolest thing. And it was like the sun was just coming up, and well, the sun was already up, but there was still kind of like a sense of a sunrise. And then we just dropped into Brooklyn, and there was one part in Brooklyn that like felt like a mountain stage in like the Tour de France or something. It came down to like 2 narrow lanes, and it was just people on either side just fucking shouting, and like
that's cool.
Mile 8.
Yeah, we were running on the farther side, and like I was just like inches away from people. Like it was wild.
Yeah, people are right in your face, like screaming. If a lot of people would write their names on their jerseys or their bibs, and people would say right in your face, yelling their names and everything. So you're running next to some guy named Jim, and all you hear is just like, "Go Jim!" You know. Me and Brian didn't do that, which in hindsight, actually, I'm glad that we didn't do that because. When we got to a certain point, the girls were like waiting for us. We knew they were going to be there. So we had our eyes open, kind of like looking for them. And I'm just like scanning the crowd, looking for somebody yelling my name. And then all of a sudden I saw my wife yelling, Jeremy, cool. You know, and if like everybody was yelling Jeremy, I would have never saw them.
It would have been different. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But to your first question, I think we were together for like the first 11 or so miles. And then, we came to an agreement, like if we weren't going to stay together, like just race your own race, and kind of looked at Jeremy and gave him the thumbs up, and he nodded at me, and then we just went our separate ways.
Yeah. And then what's that like? Are you staying like with groups, or are you sort of like running by yourself at that point? Like Jeremy, are you, cause like when we ride bikes, you know, maybe you're trying to like stay with the group, not only for draft, but also it's a little bit like a camaraderie sort of feeling to it, right? That might help your adrenaline pump a certain way. Like what's that like when it comes to running? Like, or is it just proverbially put your head down and like finish it for the next 15 miles?
Well, the benefit of like running with somebody that you know is you can just kind of like the feeling of like suffering with somebody is like way better than suffering in silence. And it kind of makes the time kind of melt by. And I think that's why that first 10 miles went by so quickly, because me and Brian were next to each other. We were talking to all different people. Everybody was in a good mood. And we were just kind of like chatting, because it was still kind of a conversational pace, even though we were kind of hammering a little bit. But yeah, definitely being together was probably the best part of the race. And then, you get to a certain point where it's just kind of like a wall, because you're just like in your own head, just dealing with the pain by yourself. And, Yeah,
it's a lot. I mean, it's obviously a lot mentally, physically, all of that. So, like Brian, how do you sort of sum up the next 15 miles after the first 11, right? Like, is it a little bit of a blur? Were you really in the moment, or like, you've never ran that far before? What was that like?
Yeah. So I knew my farthest run was 20 miles, and I knew I had a 750 pace at that length, because that's what I did in my other training run. And at this point, I was at like a 726 pace. And then I'm looking at my splits. All I knew is that like the Queensboro Bridge, which is mile 15, which is what everybody calls the wall. I forget the length of it, but I think it's a mile long, roughly. And it's kind of the famous point in the race where everybody cracks because there's no crowds, obviously, because you're going over a bridge, and it's a very long incline, and it's like quiet. Everyone around you is just like suffering, just trying to hold it together. And my only thought was just stay with the pacer. Like you get to the top and then you get a little downhill. The pacer slowed down a little bit, which was nice. We did like an 8-minute-ish pace up the incline. And then we dropped, once you hit like the tip of the bridge, you drop in and you can hear, that's when you enter Manhattan. You could like literally hear people like getting louder and louder. And then you kind of drop in and I was like, shit, I'm still with this group. Like, but I knew I was struggling. And then there was a really long incline at like mile 18. It was like just subtle enough to do enough damage. And slowly that pacer group started pulling away. And I was like, well, at this point, like I have, 10, 11 miles to go. And I held a long enough pace to know that I can at least do a sub 3:30 at this point. So, which was my initial goal. So I'm like, all right, 3:15's gone. Just fucking push as hard as you can. I wasn't listening to music at all. And at this point I turned my music on and I was just horse blinders. Like everything from there was kind of a blur. Which is a little bit of a bummer because I knew the crowds were there, but I couldn't. I was either focus on my legs not cramping or focus on the crowd. And at that point,
it's all part of the experience, right? It's part of suffering is part of it. Like it's not going to be, especially the first time you do it, right? I mean, I've obviously never done anything like it before, but like that is sort of part of the experience, right? The part where you're like, fuck, I was ready to be done, right? But you persevered and like you still fucking finished. So like, it's interesting that like you'll sort of find like the good and the bad in it, right? Especially as you continue to reflect on it. And right, it's only been a few days now. You guys are recently like back into town yesterday. So I'm sure it's a hell of a high to come down from and like a hell of an experience. Like what was your final times ended up being, both of you?
I got 3:32.
Yeah.
I was 3:24.
Hell yeah. Nice.
Yeah. And the last like, whenever I hit a feed zone, like a water station, the water stations were fucking chaos. It was hilarious.
Oh yeah. What's that like? You just like, run by? Is it just a run up or?
Yeah. You just fucking send it and grab there's people that will like stop dead and like, you're running around people. So like the smart way to do it is to kind of run to the end of the table and grab it.
Like the far end or the close end, right? Like the far
end. Yeah. So you run by everybody that's like stopping and drinking. But like they had, it was on both sides. They had Gatorade and then they had water. So like if you wanted Gatorade, you would grab that first and then water. But yeah, it was like, you're trying to not run into people and like you're grabbing cups and like throwing them in your face while you're still running and like going up your nose and shit.
Gatorade in your eye.
Yeah. But like, I like every time I kind of slowed down to do that, I could feel like a cramp coming in my hamstring. So I was just like, that was when I knew like I had to keep the pace going. And then when I saw Meg and Kayla at mile 25, and that kind of like made me stoked to just like get that last mile over with.
Yep.
And yeah.
And then what's it like afterwards? Like, are you immediately getting out of those clothes? Are you sitting down and laying are you finding like a new pile of straw? What is that like?
Chaos.
Oh my God, dude.
You had to they like tried to herd everybody out. They had this big long thing called the runner's exit where you had to like, you finish and they're like, all right, you got to go this way.
Keep going, and, like, keep going.
Yeah, everybody like naturally you want to fucking sit down, which I guess isn't the smartest thing because you got to flush your legs out and So they kind of move you up. They move you up and they give you a bag that had like Gatorade, water, pretzels, and apple, like
get
shit.
Your medal.
Yeah, they put your medal on. They give you the big poncho thing.
Space jacket.
This thing. It's actually pretty comfortable. This thing right here.
Nice.
We'll wear it for the podcast.
And then I ended up sitting down against a fence. Just like chugged my Gatorade, and I was like talking to this guy next to me, and I tried to eat a pretzel, and it just instantly turned into powder in my mouth. And I'm like, yeah, I can't eat anything. So I spit that out. And like all the volunteers are like, all right, keep moving. Everyone's like, yeah, whatever. Like, you keep moving. And yeah, I eventually got up and like made my way up. And then Jeremy called me, and then we finally found each other. He walked. You must have walked past me like a while before.
Oh, I did. Head down and everything.
Yeah, and then we ended up walking for a bit. And we walked, like, we finally got out of the thing, and then we met up with the girls and waited, like, I don't know. It had to have been an hour before we were in the Uber to go back to the hotel, if that.
It felt like a 4-mile walk after we finished.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we got a $70 Uber back to the hotel, and I felt like I was going to fucking throw up everywhere because I couldn't eat. So I'm like sitting in the front of the Uber, not saying anything, and they're like talking in the back, and I'm just like, I'm not even responding. I had my plastic bag with all my food in it in my lap, like just ready to fucking vomit everywhere, just because I couldn't get sugar and shit back in my body.
Sure.
But eventually, when we got back to the hotel, I had a cookie, and I felt great. So
brought him back.
Yeah.
And then what did you both eat like that night? What's the reward meal after running a marathon?
We got some ramen at this cool little spot down the street from our hotel. We ate everything.
Yeah.
It was
I bet.
It was
and another
great,
thing,
recovery. Sorry, go ahead.
No. Well, no, go for it. Great recovery. What meal?
Yeah, but I mean, reading everything on the menu, you're just like, yeah, I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get that.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, we had those sandwiches though.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the sandwiches.
We had sandwiches in the hotel before we even went to dinner.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Had ramen, had a drink, because I don't think either of us really weren't drinking much leading up to this.
Yeah, I didn't drink for like
a month. That was a nice reward. The hotel had free wine hour, so we went down and got some wine and then went to dinner.
Yeah. And then how did you feel the next day? Like absolutely fucking smashed?
Oh yeah, I was pretty spent. Just hobbling around every time I stood up.
We did walk around a lot, which was nice.
I'm sure that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I think today is worse than yesterday. As far as my legs go.
I feel the opposite.
Right, today's Tuesday. You both rode on. I mean, you both ran. What was it? Was it Sunday?
Sunday, yeah.
It was Sunday. Wow. Okay. So yeah, that was like just 48 hours ago. So
yeah, which they say like 48 to 72 hours is like the worst of it.
And then let's rewind the clock really quick. I'm curious what you both ate the night before because, that's something that I think we talk about a lot when we ride bikes together. We have like big family dinners before big events and stuff. So what was the meal like beforehand? Brian, did you share a picture of pasta, I think, with our group chat? Was it a pasta meal for both of you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we went to a nice little Italian spot in the city. Bunch of bread and pasta. I actually started carb loading a full week beforehand.
Yeah.
So I started just pounding water and eating a lot of bread, and I had pasta a few times, a bunch of potatoes, rice. It was probably the one and only time I actually planned out what I was gonna eat for the week and go
for the
into
week before.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And were there certain types of carbs that you were focusing on more than others leading up to it?
Well, aside from a bunch of the pizza that I was eating for obvious reasons, I was trying to do mostly cleaner stuff like potatoes and rice.
Sure.
And then
I think I think the cheese with the carbs is a little bit different. I don't know. You know, we've all heard of pizza legs before, and I don't know how much truth there is to pizza legs, but I do think there's something about lactose slows me down, at least, you know.
It seems like a lot of people like to eat pizza the night before, because I was in like a couple Facebook groups.
Yep.
Because I was just like so paranoid about this whole process because I overthink everything. So I like joined all these Facebook groups that were like unbelievably helpful. That it's basically like a forum. Like if you have a question about the race and blah, blah. So like a lot of people were posting what they were eating the night before. And I was surprised to see how many people actually had pizza.
Huh.
Pizza.
Those 700 people that didn't finish.
And wine. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I guess sort of it really depends on, you know, how your body interacts with things. Some people just can't have any lactose at all. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's really different.
Person to person.
Jeremy, same. Leading up, like for a week, were you concerned about like carb loading a week up to it, or how did that look for you?
I think it's the most, I think it's the furthest out I started doing anything like hydrating, like not overhydrating, but like hydrating more and carb loading. But it was mostly just pasta. And I didn't really think about the clean aspect of it. In hindsight, I should have focused more on like eating rice and potatoes but yeah, a lot of bread, everything that I could eat. Like I always went to bed full for the past week, you know. But yeah,
no, that's great. Interesting.
I'm a little less specific about like the things that I eat, because I mean, there's some times where I focus a lot on what I eat the night before or, you know, morning of races, thinking like that's going to benefit my performance. But most of the time when I think about it less is when I feel like I do better. Like if I forget to eat breakfast in the morning, I'm like, I got to eat something before I go for this ride. I'll stop at Dunkin' Donuts and get a breakfast sandwich, and I'll like ride faster or harder than I've ridden. Like,
I mean, sometimes it's more than just the physical, right? It's how you deal with it mentally. And so, you know, for like one personality where Brian is like, I question everything. So I'm like going on these forums, and it helps him. It makes him feel better to like hear these responses from other people. For you, you'd rather not think about it, but you know, it's like it's a slightly different path, but it doesn't mean that like one is more right than the other, I don't think.
Yeah.
You know?
No, I wish it was more of like a scientific thing for me, but it's more of just like a comfort thing, not having to think about things. I don't know. I feel like it stresses me out more to think about it. Think about the details, like the nitty gritty of things, other than just eating and feeling good, you know? I do focus on, like, I was trying to eat, you know, I stopped drinking so I would get better sleep. I wasn't eating like very spicy food last week because that like always screws up my stomach for like days after. And that's the last thing I wanted to do. And
you don't want to go poo-poo while you're running.
No. But yeah, it's the most I ever focused on like eating and drinking was last week. And I haven't been sick all year. And I got a sinus infection last week. It started last Friday. And I'm like, at least it'll be gone by the marathon. No, it just moved to like chest congestion.
Oh, that's good.
And
that's good. You really got to work it out for 3.5 hours. Yeah.
Well, I thought I was going to like hack up most of it on the bridge, but it just like ended up staying with me the entire time. I still got some in my system, and that was a little bit of a bummer, but you know, worse things have happened. Sure.
And like, you know, it's, you know, something that you can't control. So like, you know, you push through and you fucking did it. That's great.
Yeah.
So one thing real quick, I just want to talk about the shoes that you both wore. To me, there's a lot of news about sneakers and like ultra endurance running. And I really like sneakers and I really like shoes. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on these wildly expensive but specialized shoes, and let's start with both what you wore. Jeremy, I think you wheeled away and picked up your shoe. What do you have there? That is a Saucony.
Saucony Endorphin Pro. These things are great. I actually am very impressed with these.
Damn, those things got trashed.
Oh yeah, dude. There's so much Gatorade on these things.
Look at the soles.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
Wow.
And now, how many times or for how many miles did you wear them before you ran the marathon in them?
I think I had like 70 miles.
70?
Yeah. So they have around like 100 miles on them, and that's pretty much how much mileage you should put on a carbon soled shoe.
Gotcha.
You know.
Yep.
Those will be.
Brian, what did you wear?
You got at least another 100 to 200 out of those.
Brian, what did you wear? Sauconys too?
What did I race in? I wore the Saucony Endorphin Elites.
Gotcha. That's the same shoe that Jeremy just said?
Step up from mine.
Step up from that.
Elite is a step up. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I did a 8-mile run, and a 20-mile run in those before I raced in them. Oh, and I did a little speed workout in them.
And so these shoes are both equipped with carbon in the insole somewhere, right? Did you see any of those $400 Adidas shoes at the marathon?
Oh yeah. The first place winner had the Evos on.
The Evos on, those are like the new, like they're relatively new to the market. Is that correct? Within the past couple months, and people are talking about them.
They had like the consumer version of them, which are the Adi Zero Pro 3s or something. And I was actually I bought those, and I was going to wear those for the marathon, but I didn't really like how they fit me. I don't know if it was like a size issue or something. But there was two, the first and second place male, won with the Evos on. And I don't know if that's like, they gave him a huge incentive to win the race with these shoes on or something like that, or it's actually like proven that it's a really fast shoe. But I mean, like the ergonomics. The
female was wearing Ons though.
Yes, she was.
Ons, like On Air?
Yeah.
No, they were, the On Airs, but they were like a concept shoe that isn't even on the market.
Okay.
Yeah, gotcha. It's always a concept shoe. If you're an elite runner, you're only wearing concept shoes.
Right. You have the shoes that they're going to put out next year, essentially, right? Or the ones that they're testing, and they're fitting them to your feet really specifically.
Yeah, which is like the new Nike Vaporflies, like Chip Kobe just wore in Chicago, or not Jacoby, Kiptum just wore the new Vaporflies.
And those were some of the first shoes. Those are some of the first shoes to bring about this like relatively new controversy of these like carbon soled shoes that are, I guess there are sort of a lot of things I think that are like helping us push the boundaries as athletes, right? Like fueling, people are eating more carbs per hour. People are recovering differently, whether it's like ice baths or Theraguns or any of that sort of stuff, right? And specifically gear. So like there is not only a performance factor when it comes to these shoes, right, with the carbon sole, but there's also like a comfortability part that comes with it. Like, how do you weigh like how comfortable a shoe is versus like the performance, right? Because Jeremy, you returned the shoe that supposedly has the quote unquote best performance, right? Because it wasn't the right fit for your foot. So that was important to you, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was, most of the reason why I wanted to try those shoes is because I liked the way that they looked better than the Sauconys at first.
Yeah.
But then just the way that they fit me, like when the laces weren't tight, there was like weird creases in the shoe, and I was like, I know that's going to bother me, so I just returned them. But I'm really happy with those Sauconys. Definitely. I mean, I've never had a carbon soled shoe before. Sure. I just used to run with like trainers all the time. I'd do like half marathons in non-plated shoes. They have other things other than carbon that they plate shoes with. They'll be like nylon plated shoes. And the performance increase, it's like, I thought it was a placebo at first, but it really is just like, it's a huge advantage. There's just like so much more energy return with the carbon plates that, I used to have a hard time running like a sub 7-minute mile. And in those shoes, I can run like sub 6.
Yeah.
And it's insane.
Yeah, I mean, it's they're not like moon shoes, but essentially they are, right? I mean, it's not like the exact same thing, but basically you're getting, like you said, a return on your effort that you put into the ground. It's sort of pushing you back in a way, right?
Yeah, there's more kinetic energy is like how it was described to me. You know, you put all this potential energy into like moving yourself forward, but you stomping on the ground, you're essentially like the friction is like slowing you down. A bunch of different factors, but you loading that energy plate, like running more forward, it's taking that energy and like returning it better than just you putting all the energy just like into friction or however it goes, physics stuff.
Yeah, physics stuff. Yeah, right. Something that I don't think any of us are necessarily qualified to speak on. But I mean, it is interesting. I think it's really interesting. And you talk about how these times are coming down, the qualifying times are coming down. And I think, you know, people's performances are getting better. And it's because of all of these things like that I mentioned and gear specifically, you know, like we're just so much more in tuned. We're trying to be so much more in tuned with our bodies than like anyone has ever before, like generations before us. It's just, I don't know. I think it's very interesting. Right before we get out of here, you guys just want to mention like one quick highlight was sort of the highest moment of your weekend before we get out of here. Is it just as simple as finishing?
Was it?
I would say kind of unexpected, but I would say the highlight was the training.
Oh, cool.
Because I had never actually stuck to a structured plan like that before, and just to like be disciplined and like notice gains so quickly and like understand what a training plan does when followed properly was like really cool to see, and like kind of felt like I had a purpose. Like I was not that like when I go for a ride, it's not for a purpose. It was more so, you know, I ride because it's fun. But like when I was doing this kind of whole journey, it was just like I felt like I was on a mission, and like just to get it done and then finally get to the finish line was a really cool adventure.
Right. So bigger picture than just the moment of crossing the line. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what about yourself?
Yeah, it's hard to like pinpoint the biggest highlight. Like crossing the finish line almost felt, I remember thinking to myself like that was it, like kind of like question mark.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
But like the course as a whole, certain points, like seeing different things, you'd round a corner, you'd see like all these people like closed in, like spectators closed in. I think mile 8 was like the biggest, like, I don't know how to describe the feeling, but like you could feel the energy coming off of the crowd, like everybody in the city. And like, I don't know. It's that I remember like a specific part where it taken like a little corner in Brooklyn up at mile 8. And I was just like, holy shit, this is crazy.
There was definitely a part where, you know, when like something's so loud, your eardrums start to like get staticky. Yeah. It was like that. I was like overstimulated. I was like, holy shit.
Yeah, I bet. It's wild.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more thing. Anything really funny handed to you? You mentioned running through Brooklyn, and I immediately think someone trying to hand you a slice of pizza, like, or some fucking gabagool when you fucking run by. So, any really fun fan interactions, like one that really stood out, like a person on the side of the road doing something wild or anything like that?
Oh man. There's some dude running with his dog across the Verrazano Bridge.
Oh my God, yeah. What the fuck? That was so weird.
I don't know what happened to the dog. Somebody had their like doodle running with him.
Oh, and they were participating in the marathon.
Like the beginning of the race. Like we were on the Verrazano Bridge. I'm like, there's no way that dog is running this marathon. Like I hope they handed it off to somebody.
Yeah,
threw it off the bridge.
I'm done with you.
Somebody
the perfect cover up.
Hit him with a burrito.
Dude, yeah, maybe somebody hijacked one of the therapy dogs that were in the village there.
It seemed that way. I don't know. There was a lot of people with like funny signs and like, handing, there was like we have beer, and like people were like shotgunning beers, and I'm like, there's no way that you finished this race after drinking a beer. I don't care how cool you look. That's stupid.
I could barely get a gel down at one point. And people are handing out Coke shots. There was a Jameson person holding like a tray of Jameson.
Yeah. It's like, this isn't cyclocross. You have to run for like 3 miles. I mean, 3 hours. Right. Like, there's no way. I don't know. At least for me. But yeah, I didn't really, there was people holding out, like oranges, bananas, like people had little things set up, and I didn't grab any of that, but there was definitely a lot of funny. I think my favorite thing is like the people of New York that like still had to try to go about their day and like sprinting across the course, like not hitting people. And,
oh my God, dude. The
Amazon delivery guys dragging the big boxes behind them, like shooting across.
That was nothing. There was an Amazon guy that crossed a crosswalk with a forklift, with a hand truck thing.
Yeah.
Just with a pallet of shit, and there's people like sticking their arms out to like warn you about it. And I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And I'm like, this guy just needs to do his job. Like,
he's working.
Like, he's got to do it at some point.
Next day deliveries to make.
Yeah. Fucking says you can get stuff delivered every single day, and it's getting in the way now. Yeah.
Seriously.
What was it, Jeremy?
One very memorable part of the race was around like mile 24 or so when we were in Central Park. I was getting like really bad calf cramps. It just kept like, it would happen in one leg and then the other leg would start doing it. I would like slow down at a water stop and just like drink water and Gatorade to like try to fix it. And it got to the point where it was just a constant cramp that I was just running through from like mile 23 on. And getting into the park, there was a spot where I just like, I didn't come to a stop, but I slowed down and I just kind of just hunched over, and I was walking and I made eye contact with this one girl in the crowd, and she's like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "You gotta go." And I was like, she's right. And I just started running, and I didn't stop after that. And I had like 3 miles left. And I just like, I don't know, that just like little bit of somebody cool. Like pointing me out and being like, this, like, I forgot exactly what she said, but she's like, you came here to do this. Like, you got to do it. Right. And I was like, she's right. And that just gave me like the boost of energy to get across. And like, I think I probably would have walked or something another like quarter mile if it wasn't for that. But just like the energy from the crowds, like, again, it's just like, it was insane. Like, I don't think
Ghostbusters 2 was right. Ghostbusters 2 was right. Yeah. New York has its own energy, and it can defeat evil. The good of the city can defeat evil.
Dude, I felt it. What's the other movie? Elf?
Yeah, it was great.
What was the other one?
What's
Elf?
that other New York movie? Elf?
There's
Elf,
only a couple.
Christmas Spirit?
Yeah, only a couple New York movies. Elf, and only Ghostbusters 2, not the first one. Well, thank you guys very much. I mean, obviously, something that I'm sure you'll remember forever, right? Memories and a hell of a feat. So, fuck yeah, guys. Nice job. Thank you for coming on the podcast and talking about it a bit. I'm sure there's
thanks for
a lot
letting
more
us talk about running on here.
Oh, yeah, dude. Anytime. That's, So here's to the next one. You signing up for any more? Thinking about signing up for more?
Yeah, we may or may not have applied for the Chicago lottery.
Yeah.
May.
Cool.
So
when is that?
We'll find out in December.
I think it's
you September. Find out in December, and it's in September. Yeah.
Interesting. I think it's mid-September.
It's in October. It's Day weekend.
I don't know anything.
Cool.
Sorry, Indigenous Peoples Day.
Thank you. Yeah. That is an Italian's name that we will be bleeping out. You heard that, BSP? You better
edit that motherfucker's name out of here.
That fucking motherfucker. Okay. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. And talk to you soon. Bye.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thanks. Thanks again to Brian and Jeremy for joining me on the podcast. And also, once again, big shout out to BSP, my podcasting partner in crime, for doing all the audio editing and mixing on this episode and basically every single episode of the podcast. Thanks, Brian. Also, another quick reminder to head to our website, itsjustahill.com, to check out our latest videos, catch up on previous podcasts, and find links to our Strava Club page, as well as our WhatsApp group chat and our Instagram and YouTube page. I know it sounds like a lot, but basically that's a great spot to sort of find all the information. It's a good sort of branching out point. If you're ever looking for anything It's Just a Hill, it's really easy. Just type in itsjustahill.com and we'll take you there. We also have some hats for sale, which are located, the link to those is located right at the top of the page of the main page on itsjustahill.com. It's much like the hat that I'm wearing now, but it's slightly updated to match our new kit colors and our Powered by NBX logo on the back. Shout out to Jeff LaPierre, Classic Customs, for helping us out with our merch drops. It's the 6th one we've done with them. So yeah, check it out. It's a pre-order system. The store will be up for about another week or so as of this episode's release, maybe a week and a couple days. And yeah, order your hat. They print them out, they embroider them right in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, and send them to you. So yeah, thanks, Jeff, and thank you for going to our website. Also, a quick call to action for those of you who are watching on YouTube. Please like this episode, leave a comment below, let us know what you thought, subscribe to the channel if you could. We're just shy of 500 subs on YouTube. I'm pretty proud of that small milestone, especially since, all of our growth has just been organic, without any money paid for ads or anything like that. So head to our YouTube and hit subscribe, help us cross that 500 threshold. And if you're listening to the show rather than watching it on one of podcasting platforms of your choice, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, please make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any future episodes, and leave us a rating and review on there if you have the time. Also, make sure to check out our sponsor, MBX. Head to their website, mbxbikes.com, or stop into the shop located in Narragansett and experience some of the best service around. While you're in there, ask them about the studio at MBX. It's located right above the shop and offers a variety of stretching and yoga classes, as well as bike fit sessions. So check out MBX, check out the studio at MBX, and thanks. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and see you on the next one. We are It's Just a Hill, a cycling club that promotes inclusion, judgment-free, with no gatekeepers. Focused on creating content from behind the handlebars to in the studio, It's Just a Hill is producing videos and podcasts to spread the message that cycling is for everyone. We are focused on reminding everyone that riding your bike can help you overcome any obstacle, because after all, it's just a hill.
Decaf left, regular right. Decaf left, regular right. It's very challenging work.